is semiconductors. Is there really something in regards to JASMY having this connection, or is it a nothing burger? I don't think it's a nothing burger. I'm going to present why I don't think it's a nothing burger. I'll give you a little clue for a second. Tadashi Morita of JASMY. That should be your main key takeaway if you're taking notes on this one. All right. He matters, in my humble opinion, just as much as the next guy. If we're going to talk about Kunitake Ando and Kazumasa Sato, who also has made patents, you have to include Tadashi Morita into the bigger picture. Now, why is that? Well, we're going to start things off with this first. I've already fast forwarded it to the key parts I want you to pay attention to. And immediately, some of the things said in regards to this particular meeting, right, or addressing the nation, or wherever you want to call this, I think it's important. If you're wondering what this is the Hong Kong budget address of 2024. It did stream roughly the other day, February 27th, right, just a couple days ago. And on the description, it says Hong Kong Financial Secretary Paul Chan delivering his 2024-2025 budget policy address as the city braces to record a deficit for the fourth time out of the past 5 financial years, other than 2021, 2022, has some shortfalls. He addresses this whole thing of, expected to outline measures to boost income, cut expenditures, and develop new industries. Your key takeaway should be the new industries, the partnerships, and so on. Why is this important? We're going to get into that. Let's go ahead and play this. Again, please smash the like. Here we go.
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence as an important driver of a new round of technological and industrial transformation is also key to propelling the development of digital economy in Hong Kong. Cyberport is expediting the establishment of an AI supercomputing center to meet the demand of research institute and the industry for computing power. The first phase facility is expected to start operating within this year at the earliest. By early 2026 at the soonest, the computing power of the supercomputing facility is expected to reach 3,000 petaflops. The scale of such power is equivalent to the capacity of processing nearly 10 billion images in 1 hour. We will allocate $3 billion to Cyberport for the launch of a 3-year AI subsidy scheme to support local universities, research institutes, and enterprises to leverage the center's computing power and achieve scientific breakthroughs. The subsidy will also be used to strengthen the cybersecurity and data protection of the center and to launch promotional and educational activities, etc., to encourage mainland and overseas AI experts, enterprises, and R&D projects to come to Hong Kong. R&D of microelectronics. With an increasing demand for semiconductors worldwide, the scale of related industries is expected to grow continuously and exceed $1 trillion by 2030. To capture a market with such huge potential and dovetail with a national strategy for technological development, the government is fostering R&D of microelectronics. We will establish the Hong Kong Microelectronics Research and Development Institute this year. It will spearhead and facilitate research collaboration on the third-generation semiconductors among universities, R&D centers, and the industries, and to realize R&D outcomes by making use of the comprehensive manufacturing industry chain in the Greater Bay Area. Life and health technology. With solid basic research capabilities in life and health technology, Hong Kong is home to world-class experts, top-notch medical schools, R&D centers, and laboratories. We are well equipped to develop into an international life and health technology center. Set up Life and Health Technology Research Institute. In the previous budget, I earmarked $10 billion to promote the development of life and health technology. Of this, $6 billion will be used to provide subsidies for local universities to collaborate with mainland and overseas organizations to set up Life and Health Technology Research Institute. The purpose is to facilitate relevant R&D activities and transformation of R&D outcomes and to attract leading R&D talent and research teams around the world to Hong Kong. Strengthen clinical trial platform. The government will set up the Greater Bay Area International Clinical Trial Institute in the Hetao Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone this year. It will provide one-stop support to attract more local, mainland, and overseas pharmaceutical and medical device enterprises to conduct clinical trials in Hong Kong. We will also actively seek support from the National Medical Products Administration for record filing so that such data can be used for these enterprises when applying for marketing authorization for their products in the mainland. Establish primary evaluation. The new mechanism for registering new drugs, or 1+ mechanism, came into effect on the 1st of November 2023. This allows for new drugs for life-threatening or severely debilitating diseases to be registered in Hong Kong with the submission of only one certificate of pharmaceutical product issued by reference drug regulatory authorities, subject to the fulfillment of specific requirements. The Department of Health has approved 2 new drugs for registration under this mechanism, bringing new hope of treatment to patients. The 1+ mechanism is an important step in progressing towards a primary evaluation approach. This approach enables us to directly approve applications for registration of drugs and medical devices locally used based on clinical data without relying on other drug regulatory authorities. The government is committed to establishing the Hong Kong Center for Medical Products Regulation. The preparatory office will be set up in the first half of this year to study the restructuring and strengthening of the current regulatory and approval regimes for drugs, medical devices, and medical technologies. The objective is to establish a standalone statutory body that is internationally recognized so as to accelerate clinical application of new drugs and medical devices. It will also drive the development of emerging industries engaging in the R&D and testing of drugs and medical devices. New industrialization development. Driven by information, new industrialization leverages advanced technologies such as AI, data analytics, and new materials to support enterprises in moving towards smart production and develop emerging industries with high value-adding potential and economic efficiency. We will launch a $10 billion new industrialization acceleration scheme this year. Enterprises engaging in life and health technology, AI, and data science, advanced manufacturing, and new energy technology will each be provided with funding support of up to $200 million on a matching basis of 1 from the government to 2 from the enterprise. Applicant enterprises shall invest no less than $200 million in Hong Kong. Apart from the above funding support on a matching basis, enterprises participating in the NIAS may receive subsidies to engage research talent under the Research Talent Hub. They may also, on a pilot basis, engage a small number of non-local technical personnel under the Technology Talent Admission Scheme to expedite the setup and operation of advanced manufacturing facilities in Hong Kong. It is anticipated that the NIAS will attract 50 to 100 enterprises engaging in relevant industries to invest no less than $20 billion in Hong Kong. Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park. Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park in the Lok Ma Chau Loop enables Hong Kong to play an active part in the GBA development, better integrate into overall national development and forge closer connections overseas. While the first batch of buildings in the HSITP will commence operation progressively by the end of this year, various tasks such as attracting enterprises, investment, and talent are underway. We will continue to support the development of the HSITP and are drafting the white paper on the development of the HSITP in the loop, targeting to be announced this year. InnoLife Health Tech Hub. We will set up the InnoLife Health Tech Hub in the HSITP to attract top-notch research teams and talent from around the world, with a focus on life and health disciplines to conduct research. This will be conducive to the development of International INT Center in the Loop and the GBA. We will allocate $2 billion from the $10 billion earmarked to support the InnoHK research clusters to establish presence in the loop. We will also allocate $200 million to provide assistance to startups engaging in life and health technology in the form of incubation and acceleration programs, etc. Nurturing startups. In the Global Startup Ecosystem Report 2023, Hong Kong ranked second in the world and first in Asia in the emerging startup ecosystems category. The number of startups rose to nearly 4,300 last year, about a 4-fold increase compared to 2014. Over the same period, the number of people employed by related startups increased by about 7 times to over 16,000. Since its inception, the corporate venture fund under the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation has invested a total of nearly $400 million in 31 startups and attracted private investment of about $12.6 billion. The HKSTPC will soon launch the co-acceleration program to pull the efforts of the INT industry and provide value-added support services to INT startups with high potential and to nurture them as regional or global enterprises.
Chan's address is expected to outline measures to boost income, cut expenditures, and develop new industries. Right? there's some key things I want to point out. So specifically Hong Kong, but basically we know about Avita, the Hong Kong connection. Now, when we get more into this, you are going to see why this is a big deal. So for one, back in the day, roughly June 16th, right, last summer, Hara posted this update. He says, we're pleased to share material from Avita, JASMY's Hong Kong partner, right? Partner, announcing the world's first blockchain PC. If you have any requests regarding, use cases, contact us individually. A lot of people covered the whole thing of Avita. You see this here, Avita blockchain. All Avita laptop models are blockchain applications ready together with JASMY secure PC solution. When you kick it over to the next part, you'll see that JASMY got this whole thing of, secure PC solution, showcases capabilities of Avita laptops as blockchain ready devices, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you got to keep in mind that there's a big thing in regards to JASMY and obviously Avita. No kidding. To get more into this, I always call this guy in the past Hara's homeboy. Now, the reason why I mentioned he is Hara's homeboy for multiple reasons. So, as you can see, this is Akira. You can be followed Akira88. He is basically also an ambassador. Like it says, JASMY Lab co-founder, xt.com, JASMY ambassador in the Greater China area. And he's also part of this new thing called Junction. Back in April 17th of 2023, he mentions that Daily China did a great job of summarizing the activities in Hong Kong, at least last year. They also mentioned JASMY. Like it says, it's in Chinese, but we, take a look into the English if you want. Yes, I do want to do that. I want to point out some key things on why I think all this simply makes sense. So, Japanese IoT platform developer JASMY joined that course joint venture, as we know, with Avita. But when you get more into this, okay, you will see this statement. For one, it says established joint venture with Avita JASMY Hong Kong Limited. JASMY will provide data management solutions to the new company, helping Avita provide customers with secure computer solutions and devices with personal data lockers. Right. The integration of JASMY IoT platform and secure PC solutions, the company will provide data as a service. Don't forget that part. Data as a service devices as a service to B2B customers, providing an ideal solution to remote office. Also, don't forget about that. JASMY, of course, hope to expand. They're about on the verge to do this. Now, the key thing was this. Even though there were sound problems and so on, and when I do the recording, I'll just literally inject it, and you guys will see a little bit of that. But it's this, where it says fintech applications, blockchain, cryptocurrency, secure IoT solutions from Japan to the Asia Pacific region, eventually go global. And the point is this. In that address, I did get to play it for you. On the record, you'll see it. That gentleman specifically mentions about this going global. AI in regards to data protection, he mentions it over and over. And Hong Kong going gangbusters to invest in not only the startups, but the ones that are like, Web3, have a huge presence in Web3. Everything he mentions literally is JASMY's utility from beginning to end. I'm telling you flat out. You see it later. If you choose to watch it chopped up, you'll see that specifically. Now, I want to take you guys to this, and that is basically this PDF. It's called cdn.accesspartnership.com. And just to double check that you can see it, I'm going to check the other screen because obviously I'm having, technical problems. So you do see it. I decided to full screen it for you, and I want to get into this. Like it says, transforming Hong Kong into a smart city. Why am I sharing this with you guys? Well, for one, it's 2021, but we're going to also have a nice rounded out outline from where this started, technically speaking, especially with Hong Kong, to the present. Talks about economic opportunities, digital technologies, skills, Google's contribution. And you see quite a few things here, right? Digital technologies can unlock up to HK or Hong Kong D 387 billion, which is 50 billion US, worth of economic value in 2030. Talks about all this stuff about the plan, the 3 pillars of action. But when you get further down into it, it talks about the benefits to businesses, consumers, and society. Now, this gentleman that was in the video that did his presentation on February 27th, he is Paul Chan, and he is Hong Kong's financial secretary. And he addresses a lot of things in which is not only going to help Hong Kong, but it's going to help the region. Okay. Look at this for a second. Stepping into Hong Kong's digital future, digital technologies and skills can unlock significant economic value. Of course, in Hong Kong, they have this whole outline about forecasts of GDP blasting off, how they can facilitate all this, incorporating other things, enabling businesses to take off. There's an executive summary. I mean, it gives a whole, as the saying goes, smart city blueprint for Hong Kong back in 2020 and then all the way to like 2030 and so on. Now, when I got more into this, I decided to, take you guys here basically. Now, here is what we were trying to show you. Let me come back into the frame for a second. This is a summary, to a sense, of that video. So I'm glad I kind of had a backup. All right. What you're going to see here is some key highlights from the address from Mr. Chan. Okay. And in this, it mentions some of these key things that need to just be presented to everybody, not just me and a few other people from the research consortium. But like it says, the government of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region press release. Talks about the budget speech, obviously by him, International Innovation and Technology Center. Look at this. In his speech, which was translated into English for us, and which we couldn't hear it, unfortunately, talks about how the government has committed substantial resources to building a vibrant INT ecosystem. If anything, I'll just blow it up a little bit more if you can see it full screen. So this ecosystem, that is one of the key things you should be following along with. By focusing, enhancing INT infrastructure, research, capacity, talent, the Hong Kong Science Park and Cyberport are INT flagships and incubators for the city. At the end of 2023, the number of tenants of these 2 flagships, together with past current incubatees, if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong, amounted to some 4,500, an increase of more than 60% over the last 5 years. Among them, 16 have been listed, 9 have been unicorns. That's funny. And a total of some 130 billion have been raised, while more than 1,700 local and non-local awards have been won. Now, in regards to AIs, this is some of, I guess you could say, the somewhat juicy stuff. Talks about AI, artificial intelligence, important driver of a new round of technological and industrial transformation, key to propelling the development of digital economy in Hong Kong. Cyberport, expediting the establishment of AI supercomputing center to meet the demand of research institutes, industry for computing power. Think about that for a second, computing power. And I'll get in the whole thing about Tadashi Morita and why this matters, because if you don't know who Tadashi Morita is, part of JASMY. The first phase facility is expected to start operating within this year at the earliest. And here's what really bugged me. By early 2026, at the soonest, the computing power of the supercomputing facility is expected to reach 3,000 petaflops. Now, I'm going to come back on my frame on this one for a second. The reason why this is significant is we have talked about, obviously, the 2026 crazy KPI targets. But if you guys have been following just a little bit of what I talked about in regards to Filecoin, then you understand the bigger picture when it comes to petaflops. I've always mentioned, if JASMY can simply get a slice of that pie, how much and how great that would be for JASMY. So it gets a little bit into this. And it talks about scale such power and the equivalency of all of this, the greater picture of things. It says, basically speaking, that the capacity of processing nearly 10 billion images in 1 hour. Now, later on, when we get into this outline, you're going to hear specifically about CMOS image sensors and connected to semiconductors and so on, and why that's such a big deal. Look at this for a second. Here's a little bit more. We want to hear about big money. Here is some big money. Hong Kong will allocate $3 billion to Cyberport for the launch of a 3-year AI subsidy scheme to support local universities, research institutes, and enterprises to leverage the center's computing power and achieve scientific breakthroughs. The subsidy will also be used to do what? strengthen the cybersecurity and data protection of the center, and launch promotional and educational activities, etc., to encourage mainland and overseas AI experts. That's interesting. Enterprises and R&D projects to come to Hong Kong. Remember a long time ago when we had, right around this time last year, guys, we had some AI blockchain conferences in Hong Kong where JASMY, Hara, and as I would say, his homeboy, Mr. Akura, were there. Remember that? Well, they mentioned specific R&D projects, and also Hong Kong. Now look at this for a second. I know it's not highlighted, but I want to point this out. With increased demand for semiconductors worldwide, the scale of related industries is expected to grow continuously to exceed $1 trillion by 2030. When you go further down into this, it talks about this industry, the outcomes of comprehensive manufacturing industry chain in the Greater Bay Area. Another thing they mentioned is also what's going on in the mainland. I don't want to get into all that. I want to jump down to this section. We will launch a $10 billion new industrialization acceleration scheme, which is called NIAS, this year, as in 2024. Enterprises engaging in life, health technology, AI, data science, advanced manufacturing, and new energy technology will be provided with funding support of up to $200 million on matching basis of one government to enterprise. Applicant enterprises shall invest no less than $200 million in Hong Kong. So that was interesting. As I got down to this other part, I was thinking, well, what about quantum technology and stuff? Well, he actually talked about that in the address. Look at this. He mentions Frontier Technology Research Infrastructure Support Scheme. He said, we will launch a Frontier Technology Research Infrastructure Support Scheme to assist the 8 university grant committees, UGC-funded universities, on matching basis in procuring facilities and conducting research projects which cover various fields such as AI, quantum information, integrated circuit, clinical medicine, and health, and even gene and biotechnology. I mean, say what you want, JASMY is all over that like a fat kid on cake. To this end, we will allocate $3 billion from the sum earmarked in the past. So my thing is this, and I'll come back in the frame to discuss this for a second. If you've been following who this Akira guy is in the past, understanding that he is no nothing burger. He is JASMY's plug. He is JASMY's connect to what? Hong Kong. That's a big deal. How we point some of this out, especially with this recent address. Getting to the next part of this for a second. I want to show just a tad bit more because I think this is a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and share this. Come out of the frame for a second just so you can see it a little bit bigger. On this one, you will also see some notes in regards to what he talked about. So again, the subsidy strengthens cybersecurity and data protection, right? Getting further down, the government in the Greater Bay Area, what it says, record filing data could be used for enterprises when applying marketing authorization. It gets down to this part about this mechanism. And again, guys, I'm going to connect to actually Morita to this mechanism. Trust me, I'm going to get into it. This is why the shows have been delayed and not been every day. I wanted to go for some quality instead of just quantity for a change. Not to say that my other content's bad, but look at this. The 1+ mechanism. Important step in progressing towards a primary evaluation approach. This approach enables us to directly approve applications for registration of drugs, medical devices, locally based on clinical data. Now, why are we pointing that out? Didn't we see recently all of this big deal about medical data and how it's worth so much more compared to just some kid want to buy a $1 Fortnite skin? Yeah, there's that. What about a little bit more about new industrialization development? Because at the end of the day, we quoted so many things from the past. So this gentleman in the video said that driven by information, new industrialization leverages advanced technologies such as AI, data, analytics, new materials to support enterprises in moving towards smart production and develop emerging industries with high value adding potential and economic efficiency. Wow. Look at this other part. They will launch, as in Hong Kong, 10 billion new industrialization acceleration scheme, 2024 enterprises engaging in life, health, technology, AI, and data science. Funding support of, up to 200 million. I think I mentioned a couple of those things again, but that's all right. So there's a lot to be said in regards to that. This next part I want to take you to is really also quite something else. So I'm going to go ahead and take you to this particular page. Just got to backtrack to my starting point. So on this one, look at this. I know I'm out of the frame, but the point is what you're seeing here. KPMG. I just came back. Horace Park KM, he has a background in KPMG. Now, hear me out on this, okay? Before some people say this is a nothing burger. It really isn't. So this is a report from a while back, but you do see the bigger picture from the past to where we're at in the present, connecting opportunities in the greater Bay Area. Again, back to the whole thing of this particular gentleman's speech, perspectives from Hong Kong's international business community. And I'm just going to take you to some of the key parts. So I'll come back out and look at this. You're going to see here this part. The views on the Hong Kong business leaders interviewed for this report reflect a wide variety of recommendations across a range of industries, services, including financial services, tax, technology, and innovation, data management, construction, and infrastructure. So we go further down. Look at this about data management. Building on Hong Kong's existing position as a regional telecommunications and data hub, integrating and enabling data flow within the GBA. Literally what that guy just mentioned in his speech. Getting further down into this, I love this part. Increasing technological capabilities or risk being marginalized. Collaborating on innovation with the GBA offers Hong Kong the opportunity to focus on areas in which they have competitive advantage. Look at this for a second. They understand drawing on the city's role as a major international financial center. The business community notes that Hong Kong should be encouraging its entrepreneurs and vibrant ecosystem to look beyond the immediate problems to solve for Hong Kong. Instead, the city should leverage its world-class educational institutions and global financial services expertise. I know you guys didn't see the video yet, but again, like I said, on the chopped up version, you will. This gentleman, who is, again, Mr. Paul Chan, specifically talks about those things in his address. So again, this is from 2017 for KPMG's report, and now it's all coming into fruition. Look at this other part. Together with leading AI, data science, and technical expertise in Shenzhen, create powerful force on innovation globally. Right. Reaching out to the ones that are ready, allowing them to get what they need done. Talks more about this leveraging of data-driven capabilities, notably AI and robotics. Say what you want. JASMY, what they're doing with WITS is already their plug, their connect to this. Getting to this also, talks about, for instance, data management and connectivity. They talk about specifically about their future plans for the region, allowing global scandals involving the use of personal data. There is a growing awareness among governments and corporations about the need for stringent data privacy standards. Say what you want, JASMY is all over that. So this is the second time, is what I'm pointing out, the second time that we've seen an action and a reaction. And why is that so important? The reason why it's so important is because you recently saw, when it came to Japan passing a bill that became an act, and that action created a reaction. Immediately, JASMY soared, right? We went from 0.005 and we went over a cent. That was a milestone for JASMY. Recently, other people have asked, why is JASMY pumping again? Again, when you do the deep dive research, action was what? The news out of Hong Kong. And we're going to also get into the news in regards to Taiwan and semiconductors. Action, reaction. It's not the fluff that you've been seeing out there. I'm telling you flat out, if you take the time to get into this, you will see why this is so significant. I'm show you just a tad bit more in regards to this, especially if JASMY is your thing. I think you should pay attention to this. I think it's huge. Okay, let's get back into this. Full screen it. So in May, at least I should say May, like last year, but May back in 2017, the European Union passed this thing called GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. It says that it was, at the time, a new data protection law that affects how companies in 28 member states collect, store, and process information about residents in the European Union. What do we know that's expanded upon this? It's DFFT, okay? So got to point that out as well. I'll go further down on this because I need to get into it. They have this thing about implementing standards to manage data protection. Say it what you want. I know this is not about quant, but Gilbert Verdian already did that for Japan. He went there last March, and we now have standards, ISO TC 307 standard for Japan and working groups for Japan. So that's a big deal, and it always will be. Look at this for a second. Hong Kong, as we know, plays an important role as a global transaction and data hub. Remember what you heard from Mr. Chan? He says that they want to lead the charge in regards to data, but also recognizing the enablers in the region that are going to help them get it done. Look what it also says here. Go further down for a second. Mentions this system. Clearly defined industry standards are fundamental for data protection. Corporations are naturally drawn to commercial opportunities of data use. Yeah, obviously. You know, hence the Googles and so on. The GAFAs. But getting a little bit more into this before we kick it to the next part. Systems defining how data will be managed and protected need to build confidence and offer clarity around how information is used and how companies will protect an individual's interests. Who is currently doing that? It's JASMY from beginning to end, hence why they're the first to be regulatory compliant. This guy, Brian, argues that a different starting point, beginning with data protection, ought to be the focus. So JASMY's focus already meets that criteria rather than monetization, right? Monetization is just a bonus. Monetization is an option for those who we have given power back that say, I don't want to freely throw away my data. I want to have the option that I get to choose it and I don't just give it away for free. JASMY is that option. Look at this for a second. Let's pull this down just for a tad bit, this part right here. He states, from a fiduciary obligation perspective, it's about making sure that we have done everything to the best extent possible to know about the data we are using and be able to clearly show how that data is being protected. JASMY does exactly that quote. Let me pull down just a little bit more. Look at this. Talks about data architecture. Again, this is from, KPMG. We wouldn't want Mr. You-know-who to give me a bunch of criticism about it. Never mind. Anyway. Build data architecture into the GBA DNA. Look at this. You have this whole thing about businesses and consumers will need to know what information is captured, where it resides, who has access, and how the access is protected. The earlier design phase, these questions can be addressed in the context of what, guys? Smart city infrastructure. Interesting. Isn't JASMY also part of the bigger picture Society 5.0? Yeah, they absolutely are. All right, let's bring you to the next part. All right, so I'm going to take you to here, and basically, it's just a tad bit more of this. So remember for a second, I'm going to just completely shut this off. So remember a while back, obviously, Transcosmos was like the first major partnership of JASMY, and that was such a big deal, I should say the very, very first, but the real big, huge first one that, in my opinion, as far as like, do we see an example utility in motion? And if so, who's it with? It's Transcosmos. Recently, we also seen this other one. What's it called? Renko Shishi. In regards to workflows, I want to give you guys a blast from the past of why this all matters, and especially when it comes to Transcosmos, Japan, and Hong Kong. If you're brand new to all this, again, please smash the like. here's why I want to reference the past to have you guys have an idea about the future. So this is also good. This is from the About page of TransCosmos. Take a look into this for a second. Global Digital Transformation Partner talks about, for instance, TransCosmos China is wholly owned subsidiary of TransCosmos. They've been around for many, many years. I mean, a really, really long time. Since 1995, TransCosmos has entered the Chinese market, provided offshore services. Okay. Some people are asking me, do they have a presence in Hong Kong? Yes, they have a presence in Hong Kong. Look at this. They even have a location in Hong Kong. Look at that. What about, like, Taiwan? Well, yeah, Taipei, Taiwan. And obviously, big up in Japan. Okay. How so? Well, look, before we get into this, here it is. Over 3 billion annual revenues, 70,000 plus employees across 28 countries at 172 campuses. They help service over 3,000 clients, headquartered in Tokyo. They are a global BPO partner with global expertise, and that is TransCosmos. So when the personal data lockers are fully being, provided, because we're able to finally scale up with what we're trying to do with Optimism, and then when we have data storage solutions with this Web3 cloud solution with Polkadot on their layer 0, technically, then that's going to be a huge deal, right? But some people have notated that they don't quite understand the bigger picture of TransCosmos. Well, I thought I would play. Never mind, the sound won't work. So you won't be able to see it. I was going to play this, and it would have been a nice little thing, but unfortunately, you guys can't hear the sound. So on the chopped up version, you'll get it. And I promise next time around on a live show, you will hear video sound. Take you to this for a second. Let's get into this. A little bit more about TransCosmos. They have a market cap of 966.2 million. No, it's not a coin. It's just a company. Okay. Take a pause here for a second. I want to jump into this part. TSMC. This was the other big news that dropped recently. So now we're no longer talking about specifically Hong Kong. We are now talking about this whole thing in regards to like Taiwan. The reason why I want to point this out and why I think it's a big deal is because this TSMC begins operations. Semiconductor revitalization begins in Kumamoto with 9 trillion yen investment. This is posted on February 24th, just a few days ago. Talks about on the 24th, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, which is TSMC, the world's largest semiconductor contract manufacturing company, began operations as its first production base in Japan. That's a big deal, It says the Kumamoto factory, which is in I'm not pronouncing it right, town, Kumamoto Prefecture, is scheduled to ship by the end of 2024. It says, in his speech at the opening ceremony, founder Morris Zhang said, quote, "We will make the semiconductor supply network in Japan and the world even stronger." Now, I understand if you're just tuning in, you're like, this doesn't say anything about JASMY. It doesn't say anything at all. That's not the point. The point is JASMY's connections in regards to IoT and some exclusive patents, right? And we get more into this, will make more sense to you here in a bit. It says the Japanese government has drawn up a strategy to strengthen the domestic semiconductor manufacturing base and attract just that TSMC as a highlight. Well, I decided to get more into this, and I got over to this. This is from csys.org, and here it is. This is also recent too. Japan seeks to revitalize the semiconductor industry. So again, understanding that it's just not like, it's just Taiwan and it's only Taiwan doing some big things. Connecting with Taiwan, connecting with Hong Kong, and having a common understanding of the bigger picture that's going to benefit the local economies and also the common goal of Society 5.0. Getting into this one, you will also see this Japan is adopting major new industrial policies with the objective of restoring the international competitiveness of semiconductor industry. At the end of the 1980s, the industry accounted for over 50% of the world production, a figure that had fallen 9% by 2022. But listen to this. Today, the Japanese industry lags behind the global technological leaders by an estimated 10 years. That, of course, was reported August 25th of 2023. But how do they take it to the next level? Again, it's their plugs, their connects, whether it's Hong Kong or Taiwan. It says, for instance, they reflect on policymakers' sense of urgency, concern. Japan put aside practices that characterize its industrial policy throughout much of the post-war era, including limits on foreign investment and aversion to allow major foreign-owned manufacturing facilities to operate in Japan. When we get more into this outline, you'll see where we make the JASMY connection. And if anything, that is going to be huge. So you also see this whole thing back in, 2022 and even 2023 about a bilateral Japan-U.S. commercial industrial partnership and how they agreed on, quote, basic principles on semiconductor cooperation, outlined a vision for collaborating on objectives, strategy for establishing a more resilient semiconductor supply chain. Then at the U.S.-Japan summit held back in May 23 of that same year, a joint task force for developing next-generation semiconductors, how it was launched, and how they implemented basic principles. There was a meeting that happened back in July 2022 between the Japanese and the United States, and how the two countries agreed to pursue joint research and development, back to the whole thing R&D, and key technologies. So this is going to, in my opinion, connect you to some modern things. And what I mean by that is these reports. This is a new report, right? Not as in like today, but as of yesterday. Because as we know, today is leap day. This was reported yesterday from Nikkei Asia. And on this one, I'll come out of the frame to put some more emphasis on this. So what you see right here in regards to the Nikkei Asia says specifically that in Kumamoto, Japan, like we just talked about, you have this person, I can't pronounce it, Sei Yong-fen, materials scientist turned entrepreneur, opened her company's second Japan-based laboratory in southwestern prefecture of Kumamoto late last year. She's now deciding whether to build a third. Interesting. Does it ever mention anything about Sony? Yes, it mentions something about Sony. So it says, as founder and CEO, Sinshu, Taiwan-based materials analysis technology, better known as the industry as MATEC, Sai, if I pronounce that right, is simply following her main clients, global tech chip giants like Taiwan Semiconductor Co., TSMC, and even Sony, by expanding in Japan. MATEC's main network is testing cutting-edge semiconductor materials and certifying new products. Again, guys, this is brand new. Look what it says. We believe Japan's resurgence in chip production could be faster than anticipated. Japan boasts a strong foundation in chip making, with top-tier materials, equipment, and largely intact supply chain network meticulously built over years. What about some of these top-tier materials? What about some of the equipment? What does WITS do? Think about that for a second. Look at this part. MATEC, which listed in Taipei, Taiwan, earned 8% of its revenue from Japan last year. It aims to increase that to 20% by year end. On top of it, arrival of companies like MATEC, or MATEC, I might be pronouncing it wrong, a change in the fortunes of Japan's domestic chip sector. Once boasting, listen to this, guys, the world's #1 semiconductor industry, Japanese chip makers have steadily lost ground to South Korean, Taiwanese, and even U.S. rivals that surged ahead in the 90s and early 2000s. After multiple failed attempts to restructure the industry, Tokyo had all but given up on the sector. And this is going to get good. Look at this for a second. Gives you a little history lesson. I don't want to get necessarily into that for a second. But as of 2023, none of the top chip makers by revenue were Japanese. So that was a problem for the Japanese. Look at this for a second. Japanese political leadership is now determined to turn things around by attracting the very foreign companies that previously surpassed its domestic makers. Who's the one who originally got this going on? Say what you want. It was Shinzo Abe. His vision back in 2015 goes on to mention some of these other things, the investments. But I want to get down to this part. Under Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's direction, the government has earmarked almost 2 trillion yen, which is 13 billion, as a supplementary budget for the chip industry. In this fiscal year, up 1.3 trillion yen the previous year, it was Japan's biggest government budget for semiconductors ever. The Japanese semiconductor industry is going through the major turnaround, and it's reemerging on the global stage. I want to go down to this part as well. Look at this. Tokyo's new commitment to support not only Japanese companies, but foreign ones as well, shows determination to regain the country's former leading role as a semiconductor powerhouse. A company like TSMC can manufacture things like Japanese companies cannot, such as advanced chips for what? AI, artificial intelligence, and autonomous driving technology. Again, think about the bigger picture of what JASMY is trying to do. And Jun Okamoto is a partner at management consultancy KPMG Japan. There are merits to the economic security of Japan to have them in the country. All right. Show some of this recent major chip investments, all this stuff, these plants. And specifically, I want to show you guys this. Look what's mentioned here. Sony Group, 2021 sector sensors investment undisclosed. That's interesting. Now, take it to a little bit more. And I know that this is not your traditional show where I'm into the comments all the time. I apologize. We will get back to the traditional format soon. There's been a lot of news in regards to JASMY, and I think this is a big deal. And I think you guys, for the most part, appreciate it. So let's take you to this. I want to show why this is big. Here's another recent report. Okay, so this is from brownbeat.medium. Thank you to this gentleman by the name of Richard Brown. TSMC opens first fabrication plant in Kumamoto Prefecture, Japan. Now, I want to disclaim something real quick. Just real quick. There's probably some JASMY researchers here. Thank you for being here, by the way. And if anything, you probably had to oh God, Max, why are you doing this? This is speculative. I get that. I'm way ahead of that. I'm going to show you some things that I recently discovered in regards to the patents from Tadashi Morita. And again, I'm not trying to create any hype. I'm just presenting information. Anybody could take it as they want, but this was the last dot that needed to be connected. And then you guys will see that here in a bit. So let's just talk about this for a brief moment. And I'm going to come back out of the frame so you can see it a little bit better. So goes on to mention this whole thing about this prefecture. All right. Let's just blow this up even that much more. You see these people here and it says JASM. No, not people say not JASMY. Not JASMY, but some people have also stated it could be. There's been no confirmation. Just hear me out. TSMC, the world's leading contract chip maker, officially opened its first fabrication plant in Japan. When? A few days ago, February 24th. The inauguration signifies critical milestone in TSMC's strategy to diversify its manufacturing base beyond Taiwan and cater to the rising global demand for semiconductors. The company is also building other manufacturing facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I'm at. And if they do that, I think it'd be neat to actually visit that facility personally. And it says Dresden, Germany. The ceremony at the Japan Advanced Semiconductor Manufacturing Inc. from JASM, again, not JASMY, but you're going to see why I think that there's something big here. Fab in Kumamoto Prefecture was attended by TSMC's top executives, high-profile figures from Japanese government, industry, partners, academia, high-level participation, right? Getting more into it. Look at this. Giant first step for Japan, bolstering capabilities of Japan's semiconductor industry, part of the country's broader ambition to revitalize its once dominant chip production industry and reduce its dependency on imported chips. Look at this. JASM is poised to begin operations this year. TSMC and minority investors Sony Semiconductor Solutions. Denso, Toyota. Again, Toyota is connected to WITS, whatever you want to call it. Recently revealed plans for a second fab at the JASM site. Construction of the plant is set to begin at the end of 2024, expected to go into operation in late 2027. Overall investment in JASM will exceed $20 billion. When the two fabs are in operation, the site is expected to reach a total production capacity of over 100,000 12-inch wafers per month. JASM Kumamoto site will focus on manufacturing advanced chips for automotive, industrial, consumer, high-performance computing applications. As part of its stringent sustainable practices, the site will use 100%, yes, 100% renewable energy when it starts operation, replenish more than 100% of its groundwater in use as built, and build a local supply chain. Back to the report from Hong Kong, from Mr. Chan. Now, to the reference in regards to what some of the people from who are like myself, who are researchers, are going to say, how dare you, right? And I'll be with you. Let's reference this. Shout out to our brothers in the Reddit community. I've always mentioned, when it comes to research, there's CryptoX, that's part of your utility tool belt, and then there's also Reddit. And there's some other sources too, like Discord. Inky Fang, shout out to him. If you're watching this at some point, shout out to you for providing this. He says, to anyone who says that this is just a coincidence, really, let me get this straight. Number one, the CFO and longtime spokesperson for a Japanese company called JASMY reposts, and this is true, anybody could verify this, reposts something about a specific semiconductor company. You know who he's referring to there? He's referring to Hara. Go to his X account. You will see it posted. I wanted to post it for you guys. It's like I wasn't able to get it, but it's there, and maybe somebody from our community can repost it and connect it and tag it to this particular video when it's out. But look what it says. Specific semiconductor company called JASM opening up a plant in Japan, and look at this. JASMY's tech could have a direct pertinence to JASM, and JASMY community researchers have been speculating about this exact connection for years. I'm one of them. Okay, and Hara, right? I'm glad he mentioned this right here. Repost this thing from one of our big community researchers. And how long ago did he do it? He did it recently. Why in the world would Hara drop us some crumbs like that? It says, are you confident in this coincidence? If so, I call that nopium. It's like opium, but the opposite. Instead of delusional optimism, it's delusional pessimism. Like, no, we don't know anything for sure, but in my opinion, this is as close as Hara often gets to explicitly, publicly confirming business alliances. If he's wrong, and he could be, right? He's human. It's foolhardy to so confidently like to dismiss this post outright. Right? Exactly. I think so too. And then he says, you know, I guess maybe Lil Bidman was the original person to post that. Shout out to Lil Bidman. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Thank you for unblocking me, right? I want to now take you to this. This is the recent report also. Check this out. I know I'm not in a frame. The emphasis should not be on me. It's the material. You guys could get more of my mug tomorrow or the next day. You could get 2 mugs in one from me and Rob. Look at this. Let's pull this up as well. Here is the recent thing. This was originally posted by the one and only Mr. Dip Metaverse. I'm going to go down to this particular thing I want to get into. So it talks about some of this other stuff about Sapporo, and maybe get into that later on. But I want to talk about this. It talks about this whole thing about this direct relationship. As it says, for instance, what is Jasmy's relationship with Marubeni, other trading houses in Japan? For example, Mitsubishi Corporation, Mitsui & Co., Sumitomo, and Otocho Corporation. Says, so far we have no direct relationship with a major trading company. This is, I guess, from Hara. I have heard that Itochu Techno Solutions is very close to us as the physical distance between our offices because of our relationship during the Sony days. And it says, for instance, that not saying Marubeni is partnered with JASMY, but there's reasonable amount of connections. It is good to know that the team is in connection to Otocho. It says, do you have any updates on JASMY's work with Borks? This is why I'm referencing this, if you're wondering where we're going with this. Sorry about that. It says, is there any updates about JASMY's works with Borks? eGame, or Transcosmos. Remember how we just mentioned Transcosmos? Look at this for a second. It says Borks, the network is related to Masanobu Yoshida. Remember, Yoshida did retire from JASMY. There is no relationship now other than licensing, but JASMY Labs is consulting as their business partner. We may have to be able to collaborate the next open source chain, which is the layer 2 that we're developing. Look at this. Transcosmos, they have the feeling that the rate of growth towards innovation has slowed down a bit since the president took over, but still have a remote call center using what? Secure PC. Again, the utility in motion, and a chat service with no personal information using line that are commercially available. So this part, Dips comments, Borks might be dead, but it's okay. It says eGame seems to be a little bit more active as of late. They need to get that Transcosmos relationship to be stronger, and I couldn't agree more. That was one of JASMY's first partners, and the white paper did say that many data loggers early on would come from the context solutions, and I agree with that too. Look at this. That doesn't mean even close to 107 million will come for Transcosmos, just the ones from the earlier stages will, but it doesn't hurt anything. How about this for a second? I know it's a lot of material to get into. So I'm going to jump into this for a second, and I want to talk specifically about this. So basically it's this. You guys saw what was in the thumbnail in regards to semiconductors. It's specifically semiconductors connected to a thing called CMOS image sensors. All right, let's take you over to this. All right, what you're going to see here is, like it says, what is a CMOS image sensor? If I was watching, I'd be wondering what that is. So it says a semiconductor device that serves as an electronic eye. Gives you a little demo right here, image sensor, how it all works, right? On the right side, it says a working principle of a CMOS complementary metal oxide semiconductor image sensor was conceived in the latter half of the 1960s, but the device was not commercialized until microfabrication technologies became advanced enough in the 90s. Image sensors built into today's digital cameras and mobile phones mostly use either CCD, charge coupled device, or CMOS technology. Both CCD and CMOS are semiconductor devices that serve as electronic eyes. While they both use photodiodes or diodes, they differ in terms of manufacturing process and signal readout method. Although the CCD technology was dominant first due to superior sensitivity and picture quality, various improvements in CMOS sensors led to them to surpass the CCD sensors from 2004 onwards in shipment volume. What's so significant about this other than the technical nerd talk? It's faster in data rate than CCD. So if we're going to get to the whole point of modern technology and society 5.0, you have to have something that's going to have a faster data rate. It's also cheaper, energy efficient, and not on-chip integratable. CMOS sensors employ a smaller digital security that uses less power and are principle-free smear, vertical white streak, blah, 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 right? But here's the key thing that you should understand. Tadashi Morita made some patents that incorporate DC microgrid technology and incorporate some of this technology, and he has exclusive patents. And who is he? He's part of JASMY, and he makes exclusive patents for Sony back in the day and so on. So I want to take you to this, and this is, in my opinion, it's a big deal. So look what it says here. This is from IEEE, and IEEE constantly references or I should say, constantly has information, a lot of information about Mr. Tadashi Morita. So we're going to open up this as well. And look what's mentioned here. High-speed, multi-level binary imaging CMOS image sensor, for object feature extraction. Now, why would I point this out to you? Because when I dig more into this whole thing with Tadashi Morita, I saw some things that added up. I saw some connections. Look at this for this abstract for a second. Okay, this was published originally in 2018. To overcome the limitations of the threshold method, binary imaging to realize multi-level binary imaging in real time, the study presents a dual imaging CMOS image sensor that extracts a normal image and its binary image, effectively utilizing the column reset period of existing readout structure proposed. Extracts real-time multi-level binary images, thus allowing the binary imaging capability to extract perceptible features of target objects. Again, think about it. people walking down the street and so on, right? Collecting all that data, right? And I just didn't want to get into all the nerd talk about it, but the point was to introduce this to you, okay? And again, IEEE has a ton of information. When I take you to this next part, this is crucial. I just went ahead and went right down to the key area. This is from English.Kyoto News, okay? This is an interview with, who is it? Kasamasa Sato, I believe. It says, with various options under consideration, Sato says his ultimate goal is to combine its technology with artificial intelligence. While interest in generative AI such as ChatGPT is booming, he said there is always a risk if one enters sensitive information. It can be absorbed into the system that leads into unintended data leak. The combination of JASMY's data security technology and AI could create a kind of AI optimized for personal use while not worrying about data security. Such an AI could be installed into various devices such as cars, smart speakers, and other things. Look at this quote. If people felt threatened by exposing their personal data, they become reluctant to utilize data. But if we are able to manage our data on our own, we will surely make the world more fun and convenient. Sato compared his company service to real-time decisions such as how much personal information you wish to disclose when meeting new people if you offer your name card greeting someone in a business setting. So here's another thing. If you go to the JASMY website and you look up Morita, it says basically this. Since 2013, from 2007 to 2013, he did a lot of things. But look at this. In 1971, he joined Sony Corporation. He contributed as an engineer. He developed several technologies. He's applied about 100 patents while working for Sony and then some. He created the invention of NFC technology. His standardization, remember back to that guy's video, one of his accomplishments. From 2007 to 2013, he was appointed as Chief Distinguished Engineer and was instructed to investigate security trends, made recommendations to Sony's top management every single year. Look at this part. Worked at Okinawa Institute of Science. He invented DC microgrid tech. Look at this. He created a trial of world first DC microgrid system. He participated in 2008 JST Crest Dios project. Since 2020, he's been appointed as project researcher at Kanagawa University. Again, back to Mr. Chan's reference in regards to funding these universities, not just in Hong Kong, but abroad. He said that. And promoting research that contributes to decimation of standards. Again, you guys didn't see the whole thing, but in that interview, or what do you want to call it, that address, Mr. Chan talks about some of these standards. And in 2020, of course, joined JASMY as a senior strategist. One more time, this is from the chopped up white paper. Morita, Felica project leader from Sony's Computer Science Laboratories, responsible for development of Smart Guardian service. Felica is a contactless chip encryption. Remember, we were referencing all these things about semiconductors and chips. So look, Felica is a contactless chip encryption technology. And we're talking about CMOS image sensors, and somehow those are wireless and contactless. Look at this for a second. Widely applied in Japan with reliable security, this technology ensured no occurrence of an information security incident in the past 20 years since birth. Goes on to also mention Mr. Morita, as the Felica project leader, also brought his experience in the field of encryption technology to JASMY. Yes, JASMY. Therefore, greatly ensuring safety of hardware devices in the JASMY platform. And this little tidbit, he worked with Sony for years, many years, taking charge of technical invention, commodity development, BTR disk, IC card, like for instance, Suica, I think is what's called, mobile wallet chip, NFC. Afterwards, he was transferred to Sony Computer Science Laboratories to serve as head of Felica Enterprise Planning Development Department. He also has taken a position as director of Standard Application Department of DEOS Association. So when you saw Mr. Chan, I'll come back into the frame for a second. When you saw Mr. Chan specifically talk about what? Standards. Do you have somebody that's part of the technical standard? The answer is yes. Who is it? It's Tadashi Morita. Let's take it to this next part. just for a second. Remember how I talked about JASMY in the broader picture? So in the white paper, it talks specifically about tourism. Look at this for a second. You have Nippon Travel Agency. They are a partner of JASMY. Look at this for a second. Why is this big? Nippon Travel Agency is handling tours in Japan for 200,000 travelers every year. They arrange hotels, tours, tickets, transfers, guys, etc., etc. What happens when those BitPoint ATMs with an actual option on the touchscreen for a personal data locker is activated? We talk about the flip of the switch with XRP and all this other stuff. What about Japan's flip of the switch when it comes to, hey, you got to be in compliance. You have to have a personal data locker. Do you don't think that's going to be huge? It absolutely is going to be massive. I want to share this as well with you. This is some patents from Mr. Tadashi Morita, a whole bunch. And I went into all these for the last few days. You're wondering, why is there no show? Because I decided to go through all of these freaking patents. I got tired of just like not making the connection. I was like, I got to find something. I was telling Mr. Minalagwar, I'm like, there is something here. There's really something here. And I don't want to just make some fluff. I want to find something here. And so I did that. And I kept delaying the show because I was like, I'm so excited about this. And we're seeing JASMY as there's an action and there's a reaction. So check this out for a second. I know it sounds like I'm hyped up, but I am excited about this. And I know a lot of you guys are excited to see your investments do well and so on. And what's going on with the broader picture of things. So check this out for a second. Let's take you to this next part. All my research, ironically from ResearchGate. Look at this. Let's go full screen. You have the one and only Tadashi Morita. Yes, it's him. That is him. There's no denying that is him. Sony Computer Science Laboratories. Look what it says here. Information processing system. What does it say also here? It's a patent. Information processing system, information processor, information processing method, and program. Submitted back in 2015. It says abstract information processing system includes first information processor to process data displayed in a first display unit, second information processor. I mean, it's a bunch of nerd talk, but look, talks about including a first display control unit to control the data to be displayed. Think about that. First communication unit to receive operation, information from the second information processor and transmit data, information about a piece of data indicated by the second information processor, and first detecting unit to detect a position on the first display unit indicated by the second information processor. Doesn't that kind of describe a digital eye? I think it does. Look at this for a second. The second information processor includes an accepting unit to accept an operation by a user. A second communication unit to transmit operation information to the first information processor, receive the data from the first processor, and receive data storage to store the data in information. Lots of data. Spells everything about like kind of like a personal data locker, maybe. Say what you want. It's interesting. Look at this for a second. August 2013. Why is this significant? Information processing apparatus. And again, back a little bit to what we mentioned a couple of years before that. Talks about having an apparatus that will register a holding value. First communication path. All this nerd talk once again, right? And it's how it's all registered. There's more about this. Talks about those IC cards. Remember we talked about Suica, right? System device method for wireless communication. I shouldn't have dropped it down so far. So wireless communication apparatus and method for processing information from a contactless IC card. Interesting. Why is that so big? Maybe because we need a CMOS image sensor? Contactless? Communication system, uniquely identifying a communication partner with a predetermined coverage area and transmitting and receiving information in a predetermined protocol. Includes a device and information processing apparatus, etc., etc., etc. So a tad bit more about this. I pull this up from a PDF. Here's a patent, August 16, 2014, 10 years ago, almost, not quite. Tadashi Morita, assignee, Sony. Look at this. Information processing apparatus, execution method, computer program. Look at this about the abstract. We already named most of these things, but on the bottom part, it says it's a program executing unit executes authentication processing with authentication, key for executing the function, makes it possible to execute a function based on security attributes. And this is all written up. This is all like the nerd stuff. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in here, right? I can't get into all this, but this next part I also thought was pretty cool. Hold on. I think this kind of pound it home for you. So it goes on to mention that, the coverage area, transmitting the unit, the information processing apparatus once again, and it's just kind of like written up pretty much the same way. It's just kind of an update. So I thought that was big. I wanted to share that with you guys. And on this part, you're going to see a little reference in regards to Suica. So you have here, Hara mentions Suica cards in his AMA, so let's see why it's significant. Suica are the most commonly used transportation passes, which users simply tap over the ticket gate to gain entry into train tracks, tap again into exit station, where the fare for journey is automatically calculated and debited. Again, when we talk about the pairings, let me come back in the screen for a second. When we talk about the pairings of Japanese yen denominated stable coins or the DD token benefiting the local economy, here's the perfect example of how this is done. It's done through Suica. Remember how we talk about Nippon Travel? So Japan Travel, Japan Tourism, a guide. So Suica already doing that, right? What happens when we get to the part where Nippon Travel Agency, if you will, over 200,000 people annually? I know that might seem small, but again, what if it doesn't just end with Nippon? The enablers. So this is an example of swiping that. 80 million people currently on Suica. What happens when we get to the point of more people that need to use a personal data locker for data privacy and data protection? That's the point I'm trying to make. I wanted to show you guys this part. Again, on the chopped up version, I'll try to do it the right way, but the sound issues. I fast forward this part. You can look this up yourself. Go to Jesse's YouTube on August 11th, 2023. He does a full deep dive of the significance of Suica, JASMY in the bigger picture. Even in this reference, you will see some of these key things I'm talking about. So Sony, Honda, Afeela, electric vehicles will rely on Qualcomm super chips. And the connections of Qualcomm to Sony, JASMY, obviously the Kunitake Ando, and Kazumasa Sato. And again, when I chop this up, I'll just have it included so you don't have to necessarily jump over there. But by all means, give Jesse your support. All right. Here's image sensors at a glance. Again, I won't be able to play that. I'll be in the chopped up version. Sorry about that. I want to play this part or share this part real quick with you guys. This is a little bit more about this and why it's a big deal. So you have introduction to CMOS image sensors. Listen to this for a second. So it says the arrival of high resolution solid state imaging devices, primarily charged coupled devices, which are CCDs, and complementary metal oxide semiconductor CMOS image sensors has heralded, I can't pronounce that right. I can't pronounce anything right now. I apologize. A new era for optical microscopy that threatens to eclipse traditional image recording. True. Such as film, video tubes, and even photo multipliers. Charge coupled device camera systems designed specifically for microscopy applications are often use numerous original equipment and aftermarket manufacturers, and CMOS image sensors are now becoming available for a few microscopes. All right, gives you the whole history behind this. The key thing I want to get into for you guys is down here. Hold on a second, let me pull this up. Yes, here we go. This example, where is it? Yes, this. For some of the researchers that are, from JASMY community, this figure that you see here, I'm sure you see it with the green and all this, is literally part of like a reference to a sense of the patent. So there are two basic photosensitive pixel element architectures utilized in modern CMOS image sensors: photodiodes, photogates. In general, photodiode designs are more sensible to visible light, especially in the short wavelength. Bottom line is this new technology being used for these sensors for smart cities. And when you get more into this, it talks about the image sensor operational sequence. And when I went more into it, I'll be honest, I was like, wow, Mr. Tadashi Morita references all of what is literally in this. And for anybody who wants to look this up, it's from olympus-lifescience.com. Now, here's some more examples in regards to image sensors, so on and so forth. Okay, we can show this for a second. But I decided to take you right over to what? To Sony. And here it is. This is referenced from Sony-Semicon.com. Image sensor for consumer cameras. They have an overview of all this. But what I like is the features of this. Look at this for a second. High reproducibility to truthfully capture images as intended. It enhances the realism. I know this is the text, it ain't perfect, so I apologize. It enhances the realism of the images captured by the user to amplify profound effects, record scenes, to illuminate people if needed, right? Look at this for a second. Superb expression for professional visual productions. And it has a whole breakdown of how it all works. And of course, all the nerd stuff. Look at the applications it's used for. Consumer cameras. Look at this drone. Drones, obviously the Internet of Things, video production. So that's all worth pointing out. But this part, back to the topic, because some of you guys may be thinking, well, come on, man, let's get back to the topic. Got to reference some of that stuff. So Sony Semiconductor Solutions. Look at what it says here for a second. To release CMOS image sensor for automotive cameras. How long ago was this? This was not that long ago, last September. With industry-leading 17.42 effective megapixels, delivering sophisticated sensing and recognition performance and contributing to safe, secure, automated driving. Gives you all these examples. Gives you, for instance, this right here. Where is it real quick? The main features. Look at this. Long distance recognition delivered in industry-leading 7.42 megapixels. I mean, again, I'm talking about, like, there's the drones for, Society 5.0. There's these, obviously, CMOS image sensors. And when we talk about that, the reason why this is important, and maybe you're wondering, I don't understand all this, and it's okay. It's important to recognize the utility that's in motion here. Lots of data is going to be utilized. Where does that data go? Where is it protected? Who has exclusive patents for this data? That's one of the main points I want you to have to take away from this. Okay? This part. When reading signals from pixels, CMOS image sensors generally do so in vertical direction, one at a time. This product, on the other hand, employs a readout method that outputs signals horizontally, one row at a time, making it easier to synchronize with mechanical scanning. LiDAR. That's funny. Talk about Napoleon Dynamite with his he had a Liger? Anyway, I gotta have some fun. Anyway, this also uses horizontal scanning method. Means that the information output from automotive cameras equipped with this product can be integrated with LiDAR information downstream on the system. Will improve the sensing recognition capabilities of the automated driving system as a whole. Who also has some of this stuff that ties into EV? It's Tadashi Morita, and you can verify some of that for yourself if you choose to nerd it out. What about standards? Because we talked about the whole thing in regards to what? Standards when it came to Mr. Chan from Hong Kong. Look at this for a second. I think this is a big deal, whether you're still following along or not. So when we talk about ISO standards and all sorts of other standards, there's a lot of standards, right? Messaging standards, ISO 222. But look at this for a second. Compliant with standards required for automotive applications, the product is qualified for AEC Q100 Grade 2 automotive electronic component reliability tests by mass production. Also, the Triple S has introduced a development process compliant with the what? The ISO, another ISO standard. Interesting. Which is ISO 26262 Road Vehicle Functional Safety Standard. At Automotive Safety Integrity Level ASIL BD contributes to improve automated camera system reliability. Worth pointing out. All right. I'm going to take you to this. This is another thing that I feel as though is huge. This is another recent report. Check this out for a second. Let's take you right to it. Shout out to Brian, Dip Metaverse, all these guys. Okay. So on this recent post, it says, this is the 11th and final question. Dip Metaverse and I, as in Brian, asked Hara a little over a month ago. We would have shared sooner, but my wife had a baby, as in Brian. Congratulations to Brian, by the way. And then there was a Telegram AMA. Questions 1 through 10 nested into the quote tweet below over 3 posts. Here it is. Question 11. What purpose does JASMY proprietary IoT printed circuit board modules serve within the overall technology stack? You're going to see how we just tied in everything from the beginning of this outline to where we are right now in the present. It says if they are integral to the platform operating, then it is the speed that they are distributed to the market a potential limiting factor for the platform to scale. Answer from Hara. At this time, JASMY platform is a mechanism for controlling devices. And then remember this part because I'm going to reference it here in a second. Controlling devices for IoT products, but it does not require chips or other modules at the time of specific product shipment. Does not require chips because what? They have patents that are tied in and work with what, guys? Think about it. What did we just talk about? We talked about CMOS image sensors and why that's a big, huge deal. All right. Getting more into this. We have a little bit more. Come full screen again. There's a plan to develop an authentication platform as a module. It has not reached the stage of concept because no company has been found that plans to develop a specific product. Of course, we are going to sell modules. It will depend on production capacity. But since we are aiming for a licensing platform, we believe that the product company will have the relevant production capacity. Wow. That is very, very interesting. Obviously, he references the whole thing with Borks. He talks about the whole thing of, NDAs and so on. I do like this part. It says, remember that there is the main business of JASMY ran by Ando and Sato, the AI times IoT times consortium blockchain business, and the Web3 side of the business ran by Hara, JASMY Labs, Junction, and even the JASMY coin. A lot of what the main business does in the near future to onboard companies, think about this, into the platform may not be seen or mentioned since JASMY Co. Limited is a private company, has no obligation to disclose its licenses who may require privacy. Right. This is why we don't get a lot of that from the retail side and why it frustrates like our community. So again, back to this whole thing about Borks. And I want to talk about this for a second. So some of you guys have seen this, but it will make so much more sense here in a second because we talked about some of these boards and some of these, actual chipsets and so on. So let's pull this up as well. And you're going to see why I feel as though that this is such a big deal. Okay. So here it is in regards to 4G LTE. This is a blast from the past to give you an idea of why this is so important to pay attention to. So JASMY Co. Limited starts providing samples of 4G LTE Android single board computer ideal for IoT devices. Remember how Hara just referenced that, yeah, they don't currently have it, but they're not going to dismiss it. And they are going to produce some of these products, like actual physical products. Well, here's a reference. Here's a blast from the past, all the way back to 2017 for crying out loud. So these are single boards, and they completed backband certification of the core communication model, which is model name JCB 0001 under the Radio Law and Telecommunications Business Law. What I want you guys to do, if you are paying attention to every little, thing of this video, which is cool. This radio law and radio period, and the guy that's connected to that. I'm just going to give you a little hint. Obviously, Tadashi Morita has all these things about this, and I covered this in the deep dive in the past, right? And how it's Bluetooth compatible. But basically, JASMY back then exhibited a 4G LTE Android single board computer equipped with a prototype of this module at CTEC held at Makuhari Messe in October of 2017. It received a lot of interest from many different visitors. In the future, like it says, they plan to widely provide this communication model and 4G LTE Android single board computers to companies in Japan that are considering the development and market introduction of IoT services. So do we have an update in regards to some of this? I think if you tie in everything about the semiconductors, the CMOS, image sensors, and so on, you kind of have an idea where we're going to go with this. And again, we're going to get more into this. So it's about the communication model. It integrates this specifically, right? This board you see here, with wireless communication and CPU equipped with Android operating system, realized through a joint development course with Borks. All-in-one functionality necessary for building IoT systems can be expected to reduce size, shorten development periods, and even reduce costs. They give you all the specs. It's all there. Now, they didn't decide to go further with it, right? We're in a different era now with 5G, but check this out. If you were wondering if there's more to it than this, this should be one of the juicy parts for you, because I decided, do we have examples of the past to reference what Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the bigger players are trying to do with Japan? And here it basically is. It's this right here. If you go to borks.com/smart-devices/wearables, look what it says. They have, for instance, built-in heart rate sensors. And what is also another example that would use a CMOS image sensor? Well, it would be a built-in heart rate sensor. And for Borks, they already have in the past technology that was teamed up with JASMY for these sensors, or these particular boards, if you will. It lets you know that they had something way back then. What about now? That's why I want to share that with you. Look at this for a second. Let's pull this up. So from the IEEE, which is IEEexplore.IEEE.org, there's a document, and it says, and I'll come back out of the frame for a second to put more emphasis on this. It says there's a 2-tap NIR lock-in pixel CMOS image sensor with background light canceling capability for non-contact heart rate detection. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Why is that so? Because in this abstract, it talks about a time-resolved CMOS image sensor using 2-tap near-infrared NIR lock-in pixels background light canceling capability for non-contact heart rate detection. Is presented aimed to the application. The sensor performs temporal random noise, and it gives this outline of how it all works. Look what this says for example. Gives you an introduction of how this all works. And when I got more into it, I said to myself, this sounds very familiar. Wasn't there a guy from JASMY that was part of this whole thing? And the answer basically is yes, there definitely was. How do we know that? Well, when you reference some of this stuff, it talks about control systems. So on the IEEE peer-to-peer DC microgrid PDF, okay, look what it says, peer-to-peer control system for DC microgrids. That's interesting. Who's part of this list? Tadashi Morita. Is there an actual picture of him? There's an actual picture of him. Is it our Tadashi Morita, since that's a common name in Japan apparently? Yes, it's our Tadashi Morita. How so? Well, I'm going to show you that. So it talks about this implementation of how all this works. If you're wanting to take the time to get into it, it's from sonycsl.co.jp. And all you have to do is look up this peer-to-peer control system for DC microgrids. You're going to see through here, if you took the time to do it, how it all comes together. It is all verifiable. It has a breakdown of how this all works. And I'm not going to, this will be a 10-hour show if I get into all this. But check it out. At the very bottom, it references Morita. And how so? Boom, there he is. That is, in fact, Tadashi Morita. And what does it say about him? It says specifically that he, in fact, was born in Tokuji, prefecture in Japan. I know that's not pronounced right. 1953. He was working with Sony as a chief distinguished engineer until 2013. He joined Sony Computer Sciences Laboratories in Tokyo to research an open energy system. Open energy systems. Think about that for a second. He has contributed to the concept, design of the software control mechanism, and is now working on developing the arc-free DC connectors and disconnectors. Why is that such a big deal? Well, here is why. When I went to here, this is another site, prdc.dependability.org. Why is this such a big deal? Well, if you go to the top of it, at the 16th IEEE Pacific Rim International Symposium on Dependable Computing, back in 2010, it was the National Institute of Informatics. It was held in Tokyo, Japan, December 13th through the 15th of 2010. And look what it mentions. It mentions for an hour, he was invited to talk at a conference room 3 and 4 with Chairman Tomohiro Yoneda, who's part of the National Institute of Informatics. I'm telling you flat out, this is the juicy part. Everybody wants the juicy part. This is the juicy part. Why is this the juicy part? Because what you're going to see here is that it's this dependable e-payment system in Japan. What? What the heck is that? Dependable e-payment system in Japan about dependability, accountability, and security. What? Tadashi Morita, Sony Corporation. And this was back in 2010. So these guys had this thing. You know, we talk about like before the days of the Bitcoin white paper, you know, like, you know, dating back to like, you know, you see like Dr. Craig Wright or something like that, or just the talk of, you know, Bitcoin white paper many years ago. And it's just like, 2009. Well, what about before 2009? I'm looking at this like JASMY, personal data lockers, Society 5.0, way before 2015, 2016. You know, the ideas behind what? The ideas behind this greater, bigger picture, a dependable e-payment system in Japan, dependability, accountability, and security. Am I going to end it there? No, I'm not. What in the world is the National Institute of Informatics? Check this out. So let's full screen this. This is from Wikipedia, you know, and Wikipedia is just information, right? You know, at the collegiate level, you're not supposed to cite Wikipedia, but it's a good, you know, for the purposes of what we're doing, there's a lot of information here. So if you're wondering, is this place a big deal? Yes, the answer is this place is a big deal. The National Institute of Informatics is a Japanese research institute located in Chiyoda, Tokyo, Japan. It was established back in April 2000 for the purpose, and look at this, maybe this is the bombshell you're waiting for, of advancing the study of informatics. What the heck is informatics? I'd be wondering what the heck that is. I'm ahead of you. Informatics is the study of computational systems. According to the ACM Europe Council and Informatics Europe, informatics is synonymous with computer science, computing as a profession in which the central notion is the transformation of information. In some cases, the term informatics may be used with different meanings in the context of social computing or in context of library science. Okay, that sounds like it might be a big deal, right? Absolutely. Let's jump back to this for a second. This institute also works on creating systems to facilitate what? Works on creating systems to facilitate the spread of scientific information to the general public. It oversees and maintains a large searchable information database on a variety of scientific and non-scientific topics called WebCat. No, not Cool Cat Crypto, but WebCat. The N2, let's just call it N2 because that's an abbreviation, is the only comprehensive research institute in informatics in Japan. Wow. It is a major part of the Graduate University for Advanced Studies in Sokendai, and since 2002 offered a PhD in program in informatics. There's a lot of history here. The institute focuses on scientific research regarding information gathered techniques, systems for information management in all scholarly disciplines, and attempts to balance theoretical and practical research approaches, aiming to create new techniques for searching and organizing extremely high volume databases. Oh my God. Using new opportunities presented by advancements in high-speed network capabilities. Oh my goodness. Conducts research partnership with numerous universities and other research institutions, both public and private. Wow. The institution's primary goal is enhancing the knowledge of informatics in Japan. Also works closely with international and exchange researchers, institutes, and advancement of multiple goals, including, and look at this, guys, the development of international standards for informatics, and to host various research exchange programs for visiting students, research interns, postdocs, visiting professors such as Japanese, JSP, and Germany DAAD programs, and two, organizes a popular international internship. Funds students around the world to come to Japan, conduct research, all sorts of stuff, right? But the key thing for you, again, is what this right here. Their focus on scientific research regarding information gathering techniques and systems for information management. Why in the world would something like this want to do what, guys? And basically invite the likes of Tadashi Morita back in 2010. Now, back to the subject at hand. Back to maybe why you're here. Do you know what you have now? Do you know why you hold it? Do you know why the research trumps FUD 110%? I think you do. I think you really, really, really do. And with that also said, we are going to jump into why I wanted to point out so much of this. So if you go down to this, all right, I said if you're taking notes on this one, to pay attention to this, authority control databases, back to the whole thing of Tadashi Morita in his background. Because what did it also say? He is part of this whole thing of authority control databases and the patents and all of it. Don't you see how it all ties in? Why Max does these long outlines? Maybe some people don't like it. I don't know. But it's all there. You can verify all of it. And once again, look at this. Does the IEEE also highlight Tadashi Morita? Yes. Boom. There he is. Right there. And what's his affiliation? Sodi Computer Science Laboratories. Huh. What's also in this? AC power, battery, state of charge, central entity, control logic, control structure, DC microgrid. My goodness, look at this grocery list of Tadashi Morita, who's part of JASMY. In my opinion, he's the biggest deal of JASMY. I know a lot of people talk about Ando and Kunitake Ando. I mean, I respect those guys, but this guy is the unsung hero of freaking JASMY. So DC-DC converter, decentralized control. I like how it says decentralized control. Why would, guys, think about it. The National Institute of Informatics invite some guy that is part of decentralized control, probably because they realize where Japan needs to go. Energy exchange, you name it. And he gives the background on him once again. So, you know, it's crazy to see these particular things. And here's another one from his, his patent. Look at this. Transmission reception device. Remember I said something about a radio? Remember that? I did mention that. Remember that? Let's go back to this for a second. I think I did mention this. Yeah. So we talk about this whole thing about a radio, okay? And why that was such a big deal. And I might not have that on the screen, but I shared it before in the notes. It's a big deal because what you see here, this device that includes radio frequency section that performs a frequency conversion on a signal, which is modulated using a single carrier transmission system, correlation, all these things, all these patents towards the greater, bigger picture of things. Again, Tadashi Morita. Here's another particular one. I already gone ahead and highlighted this for you. This particular patent, 428/2004. Look what it says. Method system integrated circuit for communication in RFID or remote sensor systems. Remote sensor systems. What would be a remote sensor system connected to what, guys? A CMOS image sensor. How about this? Oh, here's the example I want to give you to. What is RFID and how does it work? It's a form of wireless communication that incorporates the use of electromagnetic or electrostatic coupling in the radio. And here it is, RFID. It's all there. Again, back to Morita. Look at this for a second. Here's a look, guys. I'm not making this up. Look at this. Google patents, Tadashi Morita. And what does it say? Method system in an integrated circuit for communication in RFID or remote sensor systems. So when we talk about these semiconductors, do you have something that will connect to a RFID remote sensor system? The answer is yes. And who is the inventor of this? Tadashi Morita? And you see this whole thing of JASM, and you see these little hints about JASMY with the whole thing, and out of nowhere, Hara, I know I'm out of the frame, Hara is literally talking about this when for 2 years it was speculative and there was no mention, and people were like, we don't know, it might just be a coincidence. And out of nowhere, and you can look this up yourself on X, he all of a sudden just throws this little like Easter egg or whatever. I do think that's a big deal. I think that's more than a coincidence. I would agree with the other guy that from earlier. I think that's a huge deal. What the heck? I mean, that's just unbelievable. So, in conclusion, it's basically like this, okay? And I want to give you guys some notes real quick. The way I look at it is, and this is from Monologware, so shout out to him, you have to keep in mind the greater, bigger picture of things. All right. This is why we do these deep dives. We'll be back to a normal lineup hopefully soon. Okay. But we've seen some big things happen with the market, especially before JASMY. Monologware mentions that back in 2022, Sony America officially formed a new company. Listen to this just for a quick moment. Sony Space Communications. What the heck? Listen to this. To better enable space optical communications for microsatellites. If you guys remember a while back, I did a collaboration with Monologware talking about some of these low orbiting satellites, right? But SSC plans to develop small optical communications devices to connect microsatellites, like we said, in low orbit via the use of laser beams. By constructing an optical communications network, not only between satellites and the ground, but listen to this, also between satellites in orbit. Sony SC, which was called SSC, aims to enable real-time communication from anywhere, yes, anywhere, on the ground to the satellite in space. Now, back to the whole example of CMOS image sensor. Here's an example. The CMOS image sensors in Sony, which is called SOLIS, SOLISS project, potentially benefit JASMY, right? And the many applications by positioning JASMY as a, quote, data filtering system. And maybe we'll get more into this later. But the key thing is this filtering system for data security. JASMY's focus on blockchain tech and data security could be enhanced by integrating, listen to this part, the CMOS image sensors, and these sensors in itself could provide a wealth of data that, when secured and authenticated, using JASMY's patented technologies, like with all the references that we gave in regards to Tadashi Morita tonight, and also other times, could lead to new applications and services. But how so? Well, here's an example. IoT devices. Many IoT devices, as we know, use CMOS image sensors. JASMY could very well potentially use these technologies to improve the security and functionality of these devices. But where I would like to add to Menalogware's research is, well, what if you have a guy who already made some of the patents that connect to that? Isn't that the whole point of owning the exclusive patents? I think so. I think that's going to be huge, but does create more new possibilities for IoT applications. And this part, real quick, back to the whole thing of Solace. Data transmission. We talk about the whole thing of utility in motion. The Solace project has demonstrated the ability to transmit high-definition HD image data via Ethernet at a speed of 100 megabytes per second. Okay, which, I mean, it sounds fast, but in reality, there's a lot of things that are, way faster. But it would potentially be used by JASMY to move large amounts of data quickly and securely. Back to, if you remember, towards the beginning of the outline, we talk about the petaflops. Remember how big that was? Yes, it's crucial for many blockchain and IoT applications, future collaborations, and so on. But Sony in itself, the research and development in these areas could open up opportunities for future collaborations for JASMY, Sony, and others to use their tech to come together, right? We saw perfect examples of this because at the beginning of the outline, you saw what's going on in regards to Hong Kong. And we gave you those other examples in regards to even Taiwan. We're going to look more into this whole thing of Sony Mima Mori. There's this company called UN Ops. They're already using, listen to this, guys, advanced CMOS image sensory for GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems. And so at the end of the day, I think it's crazy. But the icing on the cake for me, and your key takeaway, is where you saw the whole thing about peer-to-peer control system for DC microgrids, and those constant references to Tadashi Morita and how he is cited as a decentralized control, recognizing that it's not taking control of all this, it's decentralizing it all, right? Hence why JASMY is a disruptor of GAFA. So that is going to conclude it for tonight. I know that was quite the deep dive to get into, but pay attention to what's going on with microgrid technology. Pay attention to what's going on with semiconductors. And if anything, we'll try to find out some more information in regards to JASM. But I do think that's a big deal. It might be just be like NDAs and you can't get into it more. But come on, 2 years, nothing. And out of nowhere, Hara all of a sudden drops us these crumbs in regards to JASM. And then all of a sudden, JASMY goes up like crazy. You think that's really coincidence? I don't think it's a coincidence.